Just what did I think of AEW Double or Nothing 2025? Well, when you find out what I think, let the comments hit the... This is the Wrestling Old Head. You have entered the portal of pro wrestling.
What the world is watching.
This is the Wrestling Old Head. You have entered the portal of pro wrestling. We're going to break down AEW Double or Nothing. This was a fantastic weekend for professional wrestling. Whether you like, whatever professional wrestling you like, there was a little something for everybody, and that was the beauty of this weekend. There was a little bit of a variety, and and there's a lot to take away from a lot of the events this evening, or this past weekend rather. And I just wanted to kind of break down AEW's Double or Nothing, just give you my overall thoughts on it. Nothing too specific. I don't want to break down everything that happened. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I just wanted to get into a little bit of it. Mercedes Moné beating Jamie Hayter was one of the bigger moments to take away from Double or Nothing here. There's a bit of polarity there. Some people felt like Jamie Hayter should have won, that the real story is in Jamie Hayter against Toni Storm. And I'm one of those that agrees with that comment. I felt personally, and this is just because and only because I'm a fan of the work of Jamie Hayter. She's crisp in the ring. I don't necessarily believe that she has a character yet, but I believe that she is ripe for becoming a beloved character in the AEW women's division. She just needs to get something that the fans can really invest in, besides a theme, besides the look, besides a move, something that we can get emotionally invested in as viewers, whether you're a casual viewer or a viewer that's been watching for 6 years like I have. With Jamie Hayter, I felt like she was close to getting that during her interactions with Mercedes Moné. Some of the stuff that she was saying, I really felt like it was endearing the audience to her. It was getting the crowd to invest in her having her moment. However, AEW Double or Nothing is going to be in Texas. I believe next year, they're going to be in England, somewhere in the United Kingdom. That is where I feel like a lot of these moments that we thought we were going to see this year, we will potentially see next year. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later, so stick around for that. As far as Jamie Hayter losing, although it was disappointing, I don't think that it was the end of the world to have Mercedes Moné win. Now, I don't know what they're going to do with the TBS Championship. I have no idea how they're going to work around that, because the AEW women's division only has 2 titles, and both titles will be locked up. Currently, they're locked up in one match at Texas at the Stadium show for All In. So it looks like we're going to get Mercedes Moné and Toni Storm. It's one of the biggest matchups that the AEW women's division can have, so that's why I'm not mad at it. I think that this is an opportunity for Toni Storm to have her crowning moment. I don't believe Mercedes Moné should win this. I think she should suffer her first loss at All In. However, the scary thing about that is that if the AEW is trying to erase Jade Cargill's historic TBS championship run from the record books, her undefeated streak and all of that, and they're going to give Mercedes Moné that winning streak, then she can't lose it All In. She's got a long ways to go before she beats Jade Cargill's record. I mean, not that long, but long, So if the idea is that at the end of Mercedes Moné's run, she's going to be the best TBS champion ever, she's going to have the longest winning streak of any female performer in the AEW, then I feel like she's got to beat Toni Storm at All In. So I don't know how they work around that, and I don't know where they're going to go with that. I do know that is a big-time matchup. That's a matchup that's going to get a lot of fans talking. That match is similar, in my opinion, to Hangman Page and Will Ospreay's match, which I'll talk about later. But it's similar to that match in which you really don't know where they're going to go. There's a lot of suspense as far as the conclusion. And if done right, either decision that they make can be executed well and can lead into the future. I have my opinions on the AEW women's division without Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné, but I'm going to save that for another video. Right now, I'm talking about what happened at Double or Nothing, and as a whole, I felt this was a really, really good match. Probably the best Mercedes Moné match I've seen. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here. I am simply stating the way that those two worked together in the ring really benefited both. Even though I felt like Mercedes Moné does a lot of the Meteoras, I felt like it worked in this scenario. It was really well done. The pacing, the way that this match was laid out. I love Jamie Hayter matches, and I felt like she accentuated Mercedes Moné really well in here, and it was a great match. I'm going to keep a lot of these other opinions as brief as I can until I get to the main event. With FTR against Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness, the most interesting aspect of this match was involving Tony Schiavone. I felt like everything else, it really felt like it could have been something they saved for television. And that is no knock on Nigel McGuinness, who I love and I've always loved, and FTR, who I like as well. Daniel Garcia, I'm trying to warm up to him, but I just don't feel invested in him at all. I don't feel like he's a big deal. I don't want to diss him at all. I respect him as a performer, but I just don't feel like they've given us a lot to invest. He's like Barry Horowitz to me. When Barry Horowitz was on his win streak, and he beat Skip from the Body Donnas back in the WWF in like '94. It was fine, but other than that, what is he? Like, how can we get behind him? And I feel like that's a lot of what Daniel Garcia is. So with FTR, this win, I felt like it was a placeholder win. Somehow we're going to get to Edge and Christian, or Cope and Christian against FTR. I don't know how we get there. However, FTR calling themselves Legend Killers. Nick Wayne can join the Legend Killers group, which I feel like we're going to get there somehow. I don't know what they're going to do with Pip Sabian, but however we get there, I believe that Nick Wayne is probably going to a team with FTR somehow, and that's how we get to Christian and Cope. But I don't know how we're going to get to Christian being cheered. This is going to be interesting how they figure this out and how they thread this in. I'm fascinated by how we get to this point. Ricochet and Mark Briscoe is exactly what I felt like it was going to be. I felt like it was going to be an homage to the Sabu, Rob Van Dam, not matter of respect, but the stretcher match that they had in ECW, in a match that historically Tony Khan has said that he attended it when he was 13 years old. I feel like this was definitely that homage that I felt it was. Mark Briscoe paying homage to Sabu a lot. He was bleeding like a stuck pig. Mark Briscoe is the guy that can really be that Mick Foley, can really be even that Jey Uso in AEW if given the opportunity. Give this man an opportunity to be that guy, because he definitely deserves his flowers. Mark Briscoe is awesome, and I am constantly impressed by the way that Ricochet has gotten into his character. In my opinion, when Ricochet first came in AEW, I thought he was going to be Rico Suave. I thought he was going to be that weasel heel that was trying to be a playboy and whatnot. And I was wrong. I feel this version of Ricochet really works, until the fact that I can't see him as that dancer, playboy, a fashionista that I had pictured in my head when he was coming in AEW. That just doesn't seem like it'll even work anymore. This right here, this iteration of Ricochet now, I feel like is the best that he has to offer as far as character development in the heel persona that he has. I felt like the two worked really well together. First ever stretcher match, I think, for AEW, and it was basically an ambulance match, but it worked, and it was really good. The Hurt Syndicate and MJF, something fell off. They beat the Sons of Texas. Something fell off in this match, and I don't know what it was. It just felt like something wasn't consistent. This whole Bobby Lashley being upset with MJF, I don't know where that happened. And then halfway through the match, towards like 3/4 through the match, all of a sudden MJF and Bobby Lashley got on the same page, but it wasn't due to Bobby Lashley doing anything nefarious, like using the ring or anything. He just speared Dustin through the railing. It was very weird. I don't know if the idea was to turn the Hurt Syndicate heel here. I'm really at a loss to figure out why that happened, and there was really there really wasn't a sense of character development here to our story progression for the Hurt Syndicate at MJF. It just seemed like this match was just there. I don't know what the placeholder idea was for this either. And if Hurt Syndicate are heels, FTR are heels. Young Bucks are heels. I don't know any face teams that are ready to be formidable opponents for the Hurt Syndicate as we witness this rebuild of the tag team division. So I'm fascinated where they are going to go with this. I don't know what lies ahead here, but I do like the Hurt Syndicate. I do like what they're doing with MJF, but something's got to come to a head here. Cedric the Entertainer is looming. Cedric Alexander is looming, and he's going to become a part of the Hurt Syndicate at some point. I mean, you just got to feel that is where they're going. How they get there as well is going to be interesting. I'm fascinated by how we get there. Kazuchika Okada beat Mike Bailey. This match, I was fascinated by how into this match I was. This one might have been Okada's best match that he's had since he's been in AEW. This really felt like an Okada match to me. This felt like he was kind of kicking it up a notch. Mike Bailey, I didn't know he was that small. I'm not knocking him or anything like that, because I think he plays a great face in peril, and he's got a lot of fire to him. He's got a lot of energy. You know, the outfits that he and Kevin Knight wore reminded me of Owen Hart and Coco Beware back in the early 90s. You know, that tag team right there was like an underdog tag team that did a lot of great stuff in the ring, and I feel like Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey are that tag team. Kevin Knight being away doing the Super Juniors in New Japan, I think when he comes back, those two would make a good tag team to battle the Hurt Syndicate, in my opinion. I think it would work. As the match, it just was what it was. Like I said, this is another placeholder to get to Okada Omega, which I feel like is over the hill there going into All In. So you got a lot of just kind of like, we're buying time to get to the other point. And then Toni Storm beating Mina Shirakawa was the same. I thought it was interesting, and as of note, to not see Mariah May there. I don't know what they're going to be doing with Mariah May if she is to return to AEW, but they definitely don't want her to be a part of this Toni Storm build to get to Mercedes Moné. So it's going to be interesting. They could have pulled the trigger and done that, but they didn't. And I didn't really hear a lot of fans cheering for Mariah May. So I believe the popular consensus still is online, and I think it's reflecting in person that the fans really feel like Mariah May may be going to the WWE. Whether or not that is going to happen, I don't feel like AEW is hurting without her. I just felt like they were building her up to be a homegrown talent, and they haven't kept her momentum. This is the second time in a row where Mariah May has done something and they haven't continued the momentum. They've kind of let it squander. So take that for what you will. As far as the match goes with Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa, I thought it was really good for storyline progression. I thought it was really good to establish Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa's relationship. I believe at some point we get to Mercedes Moné and Mina Shirakawa, and that can present itself to lend Toni Storm to come out to make the save eventually. The Anarchy in the arena match was everything that you would think it was. It was an homage to New Jack. It was mayhem. Mark Briscoe popping out of nowhere. I felt strongly that we would have seen Eddie Kingston in that role. He was not in that role, and Mark Briscoe came out like he was in The Hills Have Eyes, like he was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, dried blood and all. He looked like a scary movie villain. That was an amazing moment there. There was a lot of crazy stuff with staples and tying people through their ear to the ring and all this craziness. Throughout all of that, the most interesting thing is we got the Ops, Willow Nightingale, Swerve Strickland, and Kenny Omega winning. They beat the Death Riders and the Bucks. That is something that I think is going to be telling, that you're not going to like what I have to say, but I believe it's more telling that we may see that, and, well, stick around. In a placeholder trios match to kind of breathe from the Anarchy in the arena match, the Don Callis family defeated the Paragon in an interesting trios match here. I forgot they announced that this was going to happen, and I thought they might have forgot, or that something might have happened. I do believe that we can get to Kyle Fletcher winning the TNT Championship this way through Adam Cole, but it's interesting that they had the Paragon lose. So I don't know what they have planned for that. One thing is for certain, this was another match that I felt they didn't need to keep on the Double or Nothing event card, that they could have saved this for Dynamite, or they could have saved this for Collision. I also feel personally that this was a match, this was placed poorly, in my opinion. I think it was a fine wrestling match, but you could have put FTR against Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness, and it would have done the same thing. And that's what I mean about those two matches. They definitely felt like they were misplaced. The layout and the format, they put them in a spot where it wasn't fair because the crowd was not responding to that match. They were catching their breath from Anarchy in the Arena, which tired them out. They had let the bodies hit the floor playing throughout the night, so they were tired. So this match didn't really have the heat behind it that it would have needed in order to make us care as viewing audience to care about this type of match, unfortunately. And now on to the main event. Hangman Adam Page defeated Will Ospreay. As I said during the preview, that I felt like this match had more build and more of a storyline than I even was able to pull out. There's a lot of lore behind this match. Will Ospreay constantly trying to be the man in AEW and just falling short. Hangman Adam Page going from kind of where Ospreay is right now. Like, Hangman Adam Page was in the Ospreay chair like years ago, 3-4 years ago. Won the AEW World Championship, fought for AEW, fought for his friends, lost all his friends, lost everything, squandered in obscurity, tried to make his comeback with vengeance, dealing with his demons, and running into an arch nemesis who did things that was outside a professional wrestling ring, caused his family to live in fear, for them to have to relocate. This whole build to get to this moment where Hangman Adam Page gets a chance at ultimate redemption by going into Texas as a cowboy to dethrone Jon Moxley. And I'm going to tell you, it's not looking good for Hangman Adam Page, you guys. It's really not. The way that this story is leading is that Hangman Adam Page is going to lose. And if they do that in Texas Stadium, I think Tony Khan has a vision. He wants to see things through, and in some cases will not pivot. And I believe his mission is to get Darby Allin to come back and exact revenge for having been thrown down the stairs at the end of 2024, get his redemption on Jon Moxley, and win the AEW World Heavyweight Championship for the first time. I think that is the goal. And if that is the goal, you cannot give the title to Hangman Adam Page. And that's going to be ultimately a huge, huge letdown for fans that think Adam Page is going to win his AEW World Heavyweight Championship. But if it would have been Will Ospreay, I would have been in more suspense, considering that I feel like it would have been Ospreay's opportunity to finally become the man in AEW and win the championship. Now that it's Hangman Adam Page, it is far more likely, and this isn't a diss on Hangman Adam Page, but it is far more likely that we get Jon Moxley winning than if Will Ospreay would have won. Because there's more of a story there if Hangman loses. And now you've inserted the Bucks, right? So the Bucks can play mind games with Hangman Adam Page. This is like historical here, with the Bucks being involved again in Hangman Adam Page's quest to win the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Just instead of Kenny Omega being the block, now it's Jon Moxley. I just think that is more of a story. And then Hangman having to team with with someone that is haunting him in Swerve to go after the Bucks, to go after the Death Riders, I think is also going to play a part in here. The mind games, I think it's going to fuck with Hangman Adam Page so much that it's going to cause him to slip and it's going to cause him to lose. I think that redemption arc is far more likely, and then you get Hangman making up with Swerve, forming a tag team to go after the Bucks, and then Jon Moxley thinking that he has taken out everybody in AEW only for Darby Allin to come out and challenge Jon Moxley and beat Jon Moxley and finally in the Death Riders. And I think that's where it is. I think that's where we go. I know it doesn't sound like something that you guys want to see, because I know there's a lot of you guys out there that are not a fan of the Death Riders, but there really is no top heel in AEW like Jon Moxley. And this is a story. It's very similar to me. It's very similar to Raven in ECW in 1996, where he had his flock. He had his cult, and everybody hated Raven. People forget that. Everybody hated Raven. He was Johnny Polo not too long before he came into the ECW. Fans did not like Raven. They wanted to see him lose. They were pissed off that he kept beating the Sandman, that he kept beating Tommy Dreamer, that he kept beating other guys. They wanted to see him lose. And I think that's where Tony Khan feels Jon Moxley is currently. Jon Moxley is his Raven. And Darby Allin is his Tommy Dreamer. And so we're going to finally see Darby Allin beat Jon Moxley. I think Hangman Adam Page is more like his Sandman. And if you look at Hangman Adam Page, he's a beer drinking, ass kicker. And I think that's his Sandman. So Sandman against Jon Moxley or Sandman against Raven at All In, I think Raven wins it. I think Jon Moxley wins it. And then we get Tommy Dreamer and Darby Allin coming out and finally beating Jon Moxley. Because I think Jon Moxley's beaten the shit out of Darby Allin so many times that I think it's time for Darby Allin to get his revenge. That's where I feel this is going. That's just my opinion. I think overall Double or Nothing was better than I thought it was going to be. I didn't stay up all night to watch the whole event. I had to watch a little bit of it in the morning, and I felt like I had a better experience by splitting it up because I just couldn't stay up that long, you guys. It was a long weekend. It was a very long weekend. But I liked Double or Nothing as much as you guys are probably going to be like, what, dude? Like, I didn't think it was that terrible, and maybe because I watched it in split up, so I wasn't super tired. It didn't run too long for me because I got to watch it in blocks, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, and I like where these storylines are heading for Tony Khan, building up these stories and threading them all together. This storyline with the Death Riders and the Bucks and Swerve and Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, and I think it's really good the way that they're threading all of those together, and they have an opportunity to put on a really fantastic all-in card with Hangman Adam Page against Jon Moxley, Mercedes Moné against Toni Storm, Kenny Omega against Kazuchika Okada. I think that those three matches right there are headline type matches, and they all have stories behind them. Whether or not you like the stories are up to you. I think there is some interesting aspects to all of that, and I'm excited to see where they go with this. I'm actually enthusiastic about what we see at All In, and I know you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What did you think of Double or Nothing? Where do you think the stories are going? And do you think Hangman Adam Page has what it takes to dethrone Jon Moxley instead of Darby Allin? You guys let me know what you think. As far as where AEW is going from here, I'm actually pretty excited to see where they're going. So you guys let me know what you think. And this is the Wrestling Old Head in the portal of pro wrestling. Stay tuned for more.